What's going on, all my moviegoers? This is JC. Welcome to Jacey Flicks, and today we'll be reviewing Good Burger 2. Now, it's been about 26 years since the first one, but I will go over some of the positives, the negatives, if it's worth watching, all of those things. Now, before I do get started, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on new movie reviews, new film talk, updates, all those things that I will be going through in this channel. All right, let's go ahead and introduce the cast as well as a brief synopsis. So with the cast, you do have some returning core characters, with that being Kel Mitchell, Kenan Thompson, newcomer Jillian Bell, as well as Lil Rel. All right, so the brief synopsis goes like this. Dexter's struggling, kind of down in the dumps after a failed entrepreneurial attempt at trying to start up a product with his own company. He goes to see Ed after having nowhere to stay, and Ed takes him in, and coincidentally, Ed is now the owner of Good Burger. Now, with the help of him and some employees, there is a new villain who tries to take over Good Burger, and actually does. So their main goal is to try and get it back. Now, let's go ahead and get started with some of the positives as well as the negatives, because I do love to do that in this channel. I don't want this to be a channel of me just bashing movies, even if I'm not crazy about them or I would have done something different with a plot, script, or any of those things, even a screenplay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the positives. All right, so the positives, I will say this. In true fashion, both main characters, that being Dexter and Ed, return in true fashion, with some of the chemistry coming back, surprisingly, with Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson. Their chemistry is pretty good, and the comedy is on point for the most part. Now, I know, me being now in my 30s, and the original film was something that I saw when I was a kid. A lot of it is nostalgic for me, of course, and I do know that that could be one of the things of the reason why I think the first film was a classic, along with some of the story, how it flowed, and even the pacing was great. I think so. Also, some celebrity cameos and all those things, but I do know that sometimes children humor can be a little different. But aside from that, for the most part, this was a pretty funny movie. And another positive I will say is that some of the cameos are pretty funny, as well as some cameos you might recognize even from the first one, all right, that kind of show up. They give a little guest appearance, and it's pretty cool to see, right? Again, one of the things that I love about seeing sequels, especially from the 90s of follow-up films, is I love the nostalgia, right? So they do play to that. That's pretty funny. Also, I will say this. The plot isn't too bad, but it is more of a continuation of the first one, which I do like, and them kind of furthering in the characters, what may happen, what could happen, and all those things. And they follow it pretty spot on, I will say that. Now, let's go ahead and get started with the negatives. So the first negative I will say is, again, pointing out some of the plot points. There are some decisions I would choose to make a little differently, especially when it comes to the comedy, trying to relate to some of the adults that were raised with the first one that came out in the 90s and trying to appeal to kids. I feel like in the sequel, it does appeal to kids just a little bit more, and it does tailor to that, which I am not against at all. But I did say that with one of the positives, there are some points that I found myself laughing and chuckling, but they're kind of very few and far in between, all right? And that's mostly because of the film's chemistry between Ed and Dexter, which is Kel Mitchell and Kenan Thompson. So I will say that kind of kept the comedy going for me, but there are some points where I didn't feel like the jokes really stuck too well. It just didn't fit too much of my humor, right? Now, another negative I will say is that there are a couple characters, one in particular that was a main character in the first one, that doesn't really get addressed at all. Even throughout the film, you see a brief cameo from her, but it's when Cal is having kind of a daydream, and you do see a cameo from her, but you don't really know what happened to that character. It never gets addressed or any of those things. So when you do watch this film, don't expect to have all of the original characters back. don't expect a lot of those unanswered questions to be answered in this film, right? It's a fun comedy movie, right? So do expect that. And the last negative I will say is, as the plot goes, it does happen to stick to kind of robots and what it would kind of happen. I feel like, just my personal taste, it's not a bad hypothetical. It's not bad where the plot went in the movie. But I am a little sick and tired of hearing about robots, AI, especially with a lot of films that have been going on, especially this year, even shows that are sticking really close to the AI thing. I get it. It is a fear. It is. But I feel like sometimes when you see a lot of that in movies and shows, I feel like it starts to get old after a while. So I wasn't too crazy about that. For the most part, though, it was enjoyable. And you guys, I honestly did enjoy my time watching this movie. Now, is it a great film? No, not at all. And is it a classic, in my opinion, like the first one? Not at all. Is this a bad film? Not at all. So I definitely think that it's worth a watch. It's worth the stream. Go ahead and check it out when you have the chance. But again, do not set yourself up for expectations with the first one. Do not compare it. I feel like that was a different time period. And that was a film that just kind of came out of nowhere back when I was a kid. And I don't think anybody expected it to be that good. Again, though, the chemistry's there. The plot isn't too bad. I feel like some of the nostalgia with some of the cameos from the first one coming back. A couple of the characters as well. I think that was pretty cool. So overall, I would definitely give this film 3 flames out of 5. So again, you guys, it's pretty fair. It's not a bad film. It's not a great film, but it's not too bad. I think it's worth the watch. I think even kids will get a few good laughs out of it, and maybe some of the adults as well. But I think it's more geared towards kids, especially with the sequel. I think their big aim with this sequel was to get more kids involved and have them follow it so they can go back and watch the first one and really get caught up in it. And I get it. They're trying to gear it towards that audience, especially with Nickelodeon being at the helm of this one as well as the first one. But again, you guys, it is on Paramount. I think it's worth the stream. It's worth the watch. Go check it out. Let me know in the comments below as well if you enjoyed it. Did you like it better than the first one? Do you disagree with my opinion, you guys? Again, these are just my thoughts. My opinions do not kill me in the comments, okay? My name's Jacey from Jacey Flicks. Before I do go, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on new videos I'm always uploading. Again, until next time, Jacey out.